I have never experienced medicine like this in my entire life.
We are super focused on slowing down and reversing the aging process at the root level, which is pretty much unheard of this day and age. It's all regenerative. It's all things that are naturally occurring in your body already. We're not giving you a chemical. We're not giving you a substance. These are all things that already occur in your body. And we're just giving your body the boost so that it can essentially heal itself, right?
Dana, when I did this, I came in for my back, which has been years and years and years of a problem. When I had it done, it was like instant. And that was the first time like my brain, I actually registered. I'm like, oh shit, this, besides feeling it, you could physically see it. It was just incredible. All right, welcome back to the Better Human podcast. As usual, we have amazing guests. And today we got Dana Herrera. How you doing, Dana?
I'm doing well, Greg. Thank you. How are you?
Amazing. And just for the audience, Dana and I met this year because I did a lot of work down in Costa Rica with stem cells, my back, my knee, a few other things, and really got exposed to this whole new world of medicine, which coming from Canada and the US, I never knew about and would never, ever in my imagination think that I would have actually gone through and be introduced to this type of new world medicine. And it's been a game changer for me. As you know, I've referred a bunch of friends and they're saying all the same thing. And today, Dana, what I really wanted to do was get your insight, pick your brain about sort of, stem cells and the effect of them, chat a little bit about sort of why in Costa Rica we're doing this and not the US. Talk to you a little bit about your own journey around your emotional and your spiritual growth and your entrepreneurial exercise. So we're going to get into it all today. All right.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Amazing. So why don't we kick off with this? RMI. Why don't we give the audience a little bit of an overview of what is RMI and really sort of how did this all begin?
Absolutely. So RMI stands for Regenerative Medicine Institute, and we are a longevity-focused stem cell clinic in Costa Rica. We started this about 10 or so years ago. The two founders are actually plastic surgeons, and they met and realized that they had a passion for figuring out not only how to change people on the outside, but how do you stop and slow down the aging process from the inside? So this has been a long journey for us. This has been a passion project for a while. And what's really great is that in 7 years, we obtained a license through the Minister of Health in Costa Rica, which is huge. It's absolutely huge because it allows us to deliver quality. It allows us to ensure the safety. And there's a lot of places, unfortunately, in the States and other areas in the world that can't do that. So that's super important for us. We are super focused on slowing down and reversing the aging process at the root level, which is pretty much unheard of this day and age, right? It's getting a little trendier, but it's still new to most folks. In conjunction with that, and you'll be able to speak to this, nobody wants to live longer if they don't feel good, right? So we treat orthopedically, joints, soft tissue, sexual wellness, skin, things of that nature, because again, you don't want to live longer if you don't feel good. It's about quality of life. Ultimately, that's what it's about. I can't promise you're going to live to be 150, Greg. I can't do that. But I can promise to help you feel better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the whole world of functional medicine, which I've really leaned into over the last couple of years, specifically being in Costa Rica, because you get exposed once again to this world, which is, how do we live longer, healthier? And then you sort of look at the world of like biohacking, right? And it's the same kind of concept, right? Dave Asprey, who actually we recently also had on the show.
And is a patient of ours.
Is he? He's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
He's a patient. Yeah. He's been down twice already. Yeah.
That's awesome. I should actually send him a message and be like, bro, I'm glad that you're hooked up with RMI. And by the way, not just Dave Asprey, like just to name drop, you guys have had Tony Robbins, you've had Kevin Costner, you've had Shaq. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And Tony actually in his last book wrote a lot about stem cells and the impact of it. And I remember my wife at the time, she's like, oh, you should go check this stuff out. And it was just, so foreign at the time. But let's kick off with the first question, which is really stem cells in themselves. Like, what do stem cells do? Like if I'm going to get a treatment of stem cells, really sort of what are the key things that they do or the three main things that stem cells do?
Sure. So I think it's really important to note that not all stem cells are created equal, right? The term stem cells is thrown around really loosely. You could go onto Google and you could find whatever it is you're seeking for, you could find. There are many different types of stem cells in terms of where they're sourced from. There are also 3 different types of stem cells in the body: mesenchymal, hematopoietic, and endothelial. The most common ones and that people are super familiar with are called MSCs, mesenchymal. And those you can get from your fat, Those you can get from your bone marrow. You can get those from umbilical cords, and that's where we get ours. So we get ours from umbilical cord tissue. These are full-term babies. Also important to note, they are not coming from fetuses. They are not embryonic stem cells. Those are completely separate, right? So umbilical cord stem cells on a scale of 1 to 10, and you're talking about regenerative medicine, think PRP like a 2, okay? Most people are familiar with that, right? PRP is like a 2. A live umbilical cord stem cell in terms of what it can do is a 10. And this is what they can do. They can only do 3 things, and they do these 3 things very well. They can reduce inflammation, which is the root cause of all evil, right? They can help regenerate tissue. So they recruit your cells to regenerate tissue, whether that is cartilage or muscle or ligament or tendon or collagen. And my favorite thing is they communicate with your cells. So these babies will actually influence your cells to function like younger versions of themselves. And that's why people feel so good after they get, say, an infusion, because now their regenerative tank or their fuel is getting a boost, right? Now they're getting a little kick in the butt and going, hey, act like you used to act. So people's eyesight improves, people's energy levels, people sleep better. You can actually burn fat and build muscle quicker. I just did a little story. I just did my InBody. I did my infusion 35 days ago, and I just did my InBody, and I dropped 1% body fat, put on 10 pounds of muscle, and lost 3 pounds in a matter of 6 months. But that 35-day ago infusion jump starts that whole process, right? So it's really fascinating how they work.
And when you say infusion, that's like in vitro, like where they're just going everywhere in your body?
Correct. So you get them through an IV in your arm. It takes about an hour. And essentially they go to all the places in your body where inflammation is present. They're like little honing beacons, right? So inflamed tissues put off signals, and the umbilical cord stem cells are attracted to those signals. And then they start to go in and go to town and do their job. And so, yes, it's a systemic reduction in inflammation. And then again, the communication factor is why people feel so good and why the pain reduces.
Yeah. I think the way you explained it to me originally was we're going to go in and, as you said, bring down that inflammation, which is, as we know, is what ages us and is what, contributes to us being sick. And, it's interesting painful, like it's, your body, like my, I had the back issue, but, your back goes into spasm and inflammation because it's trying to protect itself. The problem with that is it doesn't actually switch off. So one of the things you explained so well, which is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to just bring down all the stem cells. It's going to bring down that inflammation there, right? And then reprogram the other cells around them to operate in the same way. And as you described it, recruit, like, hey, come on, good cells, like, come on down and help me out with this fight.
Yeah. And like contractors on a house.
Right. And then I think the other way that you described it was telling those inflamed cells, right, to relax. There's no reason to operate with that cellular memory anymore because we're now introducing that new cell. And Dana, when I did this, I came in from my back, which has been years and years and years of a problem. We did it twice. The second time I had to do it with a dysautonomy. But when I had it done, it was like instant. Like I remember my wife said to me, she's like, "Oh my God, your back, it's like, it's not inflamed. It's not swollen anymore." And that was the first time like my brain, I actually registered. I'm like, oh shit, this besides feeling it, you could physically see it. It was just incredible. So, the big question is, why is the U.S. not doing this? I mean, you would think from a medicine standpoint, the U.S. would be almost a leader in all of this, but it's not. It's Costa Rica.
You would. Yeah. And I've been doing this for 15 years, just so you know. So I've been in healthcare, mainly on the traditional side, for a very long time. I've worked with some of the top spine and ortho guys in Houston, Texas, and I've been in regenerative medicine for the last 5. And it is unfortunate that the FDA has actually banned the use of stem cells since 2021. They deem your stem cells a drug. There are some loopholes, right, that some people will participate in. But as a whole, you cannot get live stem cells in the United States unless you're in a clinical trial. And I'm going to tell you why, based on my experience, that happened. It's for 2 reasons. One is because prior to that, it was the Wild West. Like, you had chiropractors promising to regrow hair. My mom went to her primary care physician, got an injection in her back of stem cells. And I asked her, I was like, Mom, what did you get? How many did you get? She was like, I don't know. I was like, so you're putting things in your body and you have no idea what you're putting in your body, and nobody can prove to you what they're putting in your body. And so I do believe it wasn't a way to protect the consumers, right? There was nobody regulating it. And when you sell somebody dead stem cells and call them stem cells, you're lying, because dead stem cells are not the same as live stem cells. And so it was in part protecting the consumer. And then, of course, gathering more research and evidence, because there wasn't a whole lot of it in that at that time. And then, I mean, in all truthfulness, we have, unfortunately, big pharma, and we are a nation of treating symptoms and not root cause. And that is just the truth of the matter. And I think more people are coming to terms with that and opening their eyes to that than ever before, especially post-COVID, really seeing what kind of role the government and FDA and big pharma plays in our health.
Right, right. We were talking about this earlier. It's the business is to treat you in order to treat you again. It's the ultimate drug dealer, right? First one's free.
Ultimate.
And let's just keep you coming back, right? And
then you get symptoms and side effects from that. And then you have to take another pill to address the symptoms and side effects. And then before you know it, you're being treated for something you probably didn't even have in the first place, right? It's insanity, but that is the way it works.
Right. Someone said to me, why, from a Canada standpoint, why would you not go get your back and everything treated in Canada? I'm like, one, it's going to take 3 years, because I'm going to go to the doctor. The doctor's going to say, here's some pain medicine. Going to go back. I'm going to be like, I'm still in pain. Well, maybe we should get an MRI. That's going to take another several months. Through that, we're going to give you more pain medicine. Through that, they're then going to say, oh, by the way, maybe you should do surgery. Through that, before you know it, you're worse off than you were before. And, this is where, again, it is so mind blowing from a regenerative health standpoint that we have this type of technology today. And you guys are just leading this, which is incredible. So,
absolutely.
Talk to me about the other two stem cells. So you said there's 3. So the first one you get from the umbilical cords, and they're donated, right? Like, you create these relationships with, pregnant women and
hospitals and
hospitals. And they will donate the umbilical cord, and you guys are running your own lab, right? So you guys are harvesting the stem cells, you're storing them. So you're in complete control of it. What are the other 2 stem cells?
So the other 2 stem cells are hematopoietic, which are your immune function stem cells, and endothelial, which are your vascular system. So there's another treatment that we do, and it's actually called bioinsurance. It's really cool. So when you're in your prime between 20 and 40, your cells epigenetically are in their prime as well, right? You're meant to mate and procreate and have babies and all of that. So epigenetically, the good genes, the 30,000 genes that are turned on at any given time, are turned on. So what we are going to be able to do in the near future is actually take those stem cells from you, which we're doing now, but the advancement part's coming, and turn those back to 30-year-old versions of themselves in the lab. The majority of what we collect when we do that treatment are the hematopoietic stem cells, your immune function. So think if at the age of 70, you could get your stem cells collected and we could turn them back to 30-year-old versions of themselves and then give those back to you. That is the future of medicine. When that comes down, and we are working with some top people at Harvard and some researchers really developing that technology. It's been studied in animal models, and now we're going to do it in humans. But that is the way of the future. And what's great about all of this is, I don't want to say there's no risk, but it's pretty small, right? Like, it's all regenerative. It's all things that are naturally occurring in your body already. We're not giving you a chemical. We're not giving you a substance. These are all things that already occur in your body. And we're just giving your body the boost so that it can essentially heal itself, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. The body is built to heal itself, right?
It is.
But as we get older, we get more inflamed, and, the body's not working.
We lose our stem cell numbers.
Oh, do we? Well, our stem cells go down?
Oh, yes, drastically. Yes, they decrease very significantly after the age of 40. And then what also happens is that we are creating what's called, I don't know, famous term, I guess, zombie cells. Those are senescent cells. So essentially, just a little quick recap, what happens is you have a cap on the end of your DNA strand, and that's called a telomere. That may be a popular term. Every single time your cell divides, the telomere gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So think of a little cap on the end of your shoelace, right? By the time it gets so short, the cell can no longer divide. That cell turns into a zombie cell. It's bad. It doesn't die. It floats around your body and starts recruiting and infecting your other healthy cells. So when those lines meet, when your numbers are decreasing and the senescent cell load is so high, that's when you start to see people who you're like, what the heck happened to you? Like their bodies can't recover. They start falling apart. So the goal with stem cell treatments is to make it to where those two lines never cross, right? And that's how you create longevity. If you're functioning 10 years in the negative biologically, then every decade you're blowing out birthday candles, your body's functioning in the negative. And that's where you get true longevity, right? That's what we're aiming to do.
And I think about the athlete that's got an injury. What's that looking like for you guys? Because I know you've worked with fighters and a number of pro athletes as well, right? Are we seeing them bounce back to their full sort of athletic self?
Yes, we are. It's super exciting. So that's not, I wouldn't say the majority of our patients, but we definitely have a little niche where we've had a lot of athletes come in recently. Derek Lewis, who is a UFC fighter, Liam Harrison, and they are just having fantastic results. Granted, you have to do what the physicians tell you and you have to take it easy. What's really interesting with stem cells is you don't have to do anything to get them to work. You just got to relax and sit back and let them do their job, right? So if you're following the instructions and you're doing that, then what we're seeing is pretty amazing. Derek Lewis has a fight coming up in May and we're all going to go watch it. It's his comeback. And he, honestly, what he's said out of all of it is his mood has improved the most. Like his wife is thrilled. He's like, he's just so happy. And it's really interesting how they work. Several NFL players, we've had some guys who have had the best seasons of their careers after coming down. I can't mention their names, but yeah, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic alternative to surgery, to cortisone shots, to, all of, again, the traditional kind of standard medicine that we use today.
Well, cortisone is the worst. Cortisone actually makes you more inflamed, right? And
terrible.
Before I came down to see you, the doctor's like, "Look, let me give you a cortisone shot." And the first time I've ever had it, right? And I get the cortisone shot. I'm like, holy, this works. But it wasn't the cortisone. It was the lidocaine,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Lidocaine, yep.
Right?
Yep.
Where you're all numb and like it's the painkiller. And as soon as that wore off, I swear I got worse. It was like the pain tripled from that cortisone shot.
Yep. Right? And it's so bad for your cartilage and your muscle. I mean, it's so bad. It's so bad for them.
Yeah. It's amazing at how traditional medicine is so archaic in their practices. And it's 2024. And as we're talking about, all these regulations and big pharma and stuff, I mean, this all plays into it. But for the audience, if you are, if you have an ailment, you got the injury, one of the things I would personally encourage you, because I've gone through this myself, is stem cells are, as Dana described, the way of the future. And, I think the best thing that you said earlier was we want to live longer, but we want to be healthier, right? I don't want to be decrepit at 90 years old and not being able to move and do any of that. I want to be able to have that energy and that zest, let's call it, for life, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So, the other thing I'm interested in is you guys do this, in regard to, I don't know how to describe it, but people can get stem cells injected in their face, right? From, is it a beauty thing or does it make us look younger? What does it do? And by the way, I'm asking this for my wife because she wants to come down.
So this treatment I actually do every year. I do 3 treatments every year. I'm going to be 40 this year. And I do the stem cell facial. I do the plasma exchange and I do the infusion. And I'm going to answer your question, but before I do that, I'm going to tell you another story. So when I started with this company, I was aging. I took a test. It's a true diagnostics test. It measures your biological age. I was aging 1.4 times every year at 37 years old. I looked in the mirror. I was like, there's no freaking way. I called the guy at True Diagnostics. I was like, this is not right. Like, it's just not possible. It's like, no, you are. Like, this is how quickly you're aging. And I came to discover that a lot of it had to do with how I was managing stress, alcohol consumption. Of course, lifestyle is the biggest component of all, right? This is not a silver bullet. You don't just come get stem cells and, drink beer, eat hot dogs every day and go, what happened? It didn't work. So I started making some changes. I will say my last test that I took in September came back at 0.97. So I am slowing down my aging process. I'm actually aging slower than once a year, right? At 0.97. And it put me in the Rejuvenation Olympics. I had no idea it even existed, at number 12 out of 2,000 people. So The outside, of course, and how you feel, yes, is absolutely important. We want to feel confident. And the stem cell facial is where we actually inject live umbilical cord cells into the skin, like by hand, over 150 times. We'll do your face, we'll do your neck, we can do your chest. We started doing hands. And what those are doing is, again, recruiting your cells and regenerating the collagen in your skin. And it's a very natural look, and it doesn't wear off, right? It's not Botox. It's not a chemical. So it continues to improve. Your skin continues to improve up to 12 months. So it's fantastic. It's a wonderful treatment. Again, I do it every single year. I want to know I'm healthy on the outside and the inside, right? I think it's key. And then mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of these factors and all of these pillars are what give us the ability to, I believe, live a truly fulfilling, purpose-filled life, right? When all of these things are in alignment, we can fulfill our purpose. So it's just great to be able to be playing a role in that.
I want to come back to your purpose in a sec, but I want to ask a question first. The plasma treatment, what is it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so therapeutic plasma exchange is actually approved in the United States for people who have autoimmune issues. And the reason for that is because what happens is over time, what our liver doesn't process out gets housed in our plasma. So toxins from drugs, alcohol, fun 20s, the environment, inflammatory particles and viral particles are literally just recirculating out through your body all day long. So the analogy I use is we're walking, talking dirty fish tanks. Just like you wouldn't buy a brand new tropical fish and never clean its water, our bodies are the same. So we have to remove the bad. We have to remove 2 to 3 liters of the plasma and replace it with something clean, like saline and albumin, which essentially convert to clean plasma. So now you have a micro pristine environment in which your cells can thrive. Because again, your plasma is where your cells live, right? It's 2/3 of your blood. So you want to clean that out to allow your cells to function at their peak. And it is a phenomenal longevity treatment. We have studies on that. And I recommend the plasma exchange for everybody.
And what you guys specifically do is you don't just clean your plasma and put it back in. We're removing our plasma, and then you're
Correct.
putting in a synthetic, I don't know what it's called, but
well, it's not synthetic. It's a donor. It's a donor protein. It's called albumin. So it's the protein that our cells need. So it's saline and then it's the albumin, and that's safer than actually young plasma. Some places use actual young plasma, but from all the research we've done and the data we've collected, which by the way, we are completely data, it's science driven. This is not experimental. Everything we do is based on science and data. The data shows it's a lot safer to use albumin instead of actual donor plasma. It does the same thing. So yes, we're removing the bad. We're not just cleaning it like or oxygenating it like ozone. We're taking it out and we're putting in good, clean components so that your body can really function.
That's awesome. You described the fish tank. I described the oil change, right? Take your car and you get an oil change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you need it, right?
Concept.
Like it's the same thing, and your engine, it gets all gunky. And if you're not running that clean oil, it's going to actually wear and tear on the engine even more, right?
Exactly the same concept.
So let's switch gears. Talk to me a little bit about like your purpose. I know like you're on this journey and the emotional and the spiritual journey and, what is your purpose in life?
So I've always wondered that, but I know now for a fact what I'm doing is my purpose, right? So I've been in healthcare for 15 years. My mom was a physical therapist. I love helping people. Like genuinely and truly love helping people. And to be able to be a part of what we're doing and growing RMI the way we're growing it has been absolutely phenomenal. It is not without its challenges because growing any kind of startup or especially taking something from nothing and creating a shift in the world, a shift in thought and then getting people to understand and believe that is a lot of work, right? So I have been able to really settle in and follow some of the plant-based medicine type journey things. I've been working with a life coach and an energy coach. I think it's really important as an entrepreneur when we are dedicating, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of our time to work. And I travel. I have 2 children. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son, and I travel probably about half the month. So it's super demanding on me. And I have found that in order to be able to be the best I can at all of those aspects and to fulfill my purpose, which is honestly to bring a new way of medicine to the world, that is my purpose. I have to be right emotionally. I have to be right mentally. I have to be right spiritually. And it is perfectly fine. And I love that we are finally in an era where we are accepting that there are, again, alternatives to spiritual health and mental health and emotional health. And same way we're shifting the paradigm in medicine from a physical standpoint, we're doing the same thing from that level. And things like, Danny Morrell and Ed Milet, and there's all these different people and thought leaders out there who are really paving the way for that. And it's super exciting to see, because I would not be the same person if I didn't have that in my life and haven't gone through that journey. Have you ever done anything like that?
Yeah, tons.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the plant medicine. So, what was that journey like for you, and specifically what plant medicine?
So there has been a patient, and I've been fortunate enough to meet so many incredible people in what I do. And one of our patients has a ranch. And at that ranch, he has a psychiatrist that has been doing a protocol for a long time and doing research on it. And it's called the HEART protocol. And the HEART protocol involves MDMA, psilocybin, and then an injection of ketamine. And it was just the utmost beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. We had several of our other team members go through it. And you can see the people that have gone through it versus the team members that haven't, and the awakening that's occurred, and really just understanding that all of our purposes is just love, right? Period, end of story. That's it. It's not complicated. Love. And in every single thing you're doing, whether it's a relationship with your spouse or your children or your friends or your work, that is the litmus test for me. Am I doing this out of love? And I think that in the plant-based journey, it really brings you to that place of understanding through a very profound way. But I think it brings us all back to love, because ultimately that's what we are, right? And that's the end of it, in my opinion.
So what was some of the word awakening? I mean, what was some of the awakenedness that you came out with? Love being one of them, following with your heart, right?
Yes, love being one of them.
And let me ask you this, considering before, were you battling with anything? Were you battling with your own security and your own relationships and being mom and being spouse and being entrepreneur? What was that like before versus after?
I think the battle for me was self-love, right? I've always been a people pleaser. I've always been a giver. I always put everybody else before myself, and thinking that was, what you were supposed to do. And so I finally was able to awaken to the fact that self-love is not selfish, right? You cannot fill anybody else's cup if your cup is not first full, right? And so really coming to the profound understanding of what self-love is and how to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. And understanding the different levels of consciousness, and understanding that we're all born out of love. And then over time, we are conditioned, right? You have to get good grades. You have to do this. You need to go, you have to play professional sports. This is how we obtain, value and worth, right? And that's a bunch of horseshit. I'm sorry, it is. And we have to unlearn that, right? We have to be able to move through the different levels of consciousness where most of us function out of fear, insecurity, anxiety, all of these levels, and being able to move out of that and transcend those emotions into a place of love and understanding and compassion. And I had a situation where somebody told me something absolutely just would have devastated me. It was a betrayal, right? And the way I responded was astounding. I didn't get mad. I didn't get upset. I didn't feel hurt. I just came from a place of understanding what they would have had to been going through to do something like that. And I came from a place of support. And I looked back on that. I was like, holy crap, no way last year somebody could have told me what they told me. And that would have been my response. So it's really beautiful when you start to, again, awaken and allow the different levels of consciousness and understanding how to get into those levels. I would say my favorite place to be is theta. I'm addicted to going into theta state right now. When I meditate, I guess there are worse things to be addicted to, but 5 times a day, I'm I gotta go get in.
Meditate. I was going to ask you, have you looped in, or you've brought those practices like meditation into your everyday life?
Yes, absolutely. Everyday life. So Rudy, who is a dear friend of both of ours, has been just he's a godsend. So he has taught me something which I would call priming, which he calls priming. And it's really, really great to do instead of picking up your phone and going into the rabbit hole of Instagram and emails and text messages, right? You don't touch it. You get up, you go sit in a chair by yourself. you close your eyes and you envision your future, right? What do you want? What are your thoughts? Control your thoughts the very first thing in the morning and envision your future and start drawing that future to you, and then write it down, right? So I journal every single day, sometimes twice a day. And I write down what I'm feeling. I write down my thoughts. I write I am statements. I do I am statements with my daughter now. Like, she gets out of the car to go into kindergarten, and I'm like, what's our I am statement today? And she's like, I am kind. I'm like, fantastic. Like, let's start this early, right? Like, let's not wait till we're almost 40 to figure out how to create our life and how to create love and purpose in our life. It's just, I'm so thankful that I found it, but I wish I would have found it earlier, right?
You weren't ready for it before. I think I'm a believer that everything comes to our life in the time. There's also that wonderful saying that the universe will give you what you want, and it's our responsibility to recognize when it's being given to us and to take action on it, right? And I agree with you in regard to we need to be a little bit selfish. We need to make sure our cup is full in order to continually give. And back to Rudy, we were just actually chatting about this the other day. He was on the show as well, and he was talking about priming and the waking up and how our brain is, I'm going to butcher this, but is the first 20 minutes of us waking up, our brain is so susceptible to all this negativity. And it's also so open for us to introduce new energy, new thought, new narratives. And the whole concept of visualization and then manifesting that by writing it down. I think, this isn't hokey pokey stuff. This shit works. It really works, right?
It works. It works. I have a list. It works. We even brought him in to work with our team at RMI. We have 40 so team members there, and we brought him in to work with them for a day, because for me, I don't want to just change our patients' lives. I want to change every single person on our team's life. Like, I want people to be happy. I want people to live their fullest and best life and find the best version of themselves. So we brought him in. He spent a day. And I mean, it's been so great. I get text messages still from my, some of the doctors and nurses. Like, I've been priming every day. My life is, it freaking works. It works. It's incredible. But you have to do it right. You have to do the work. You can't half do it. You can't think about it and be like, okay, let's see what happens. Like, I mean, you have to put in the work, like anything else in life, right? Anything worth having takes work. So,
and how are your kids responding to the I am statements? And, and have they started meditating as well? I mean, is that something that you're going to loop in there?
So there's this really great book that I found and started reading to my daughter, and there's different versions of it. And the one that I love the most and that she loves is called My Magical Words. And it's really cool that it starts out and it tells you the magic is you. The magic is in you. Just say I am and put a nice word after it and watch it come true, right? So it's really great that there are books out there that are starting to teach what I believe and what I want my child to know, right? Like, you are the magic. You just have to believe you are, and you just have to make the choice, and you just have to show up that way and choose the action. And watch what you can create, right? Because we are the creators of our own life. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really neat to see.
What you're really describing from the world of psychology, we call it reframing, right? Which is, how do I now start to speak differently? How do I change the thoughts? And I think the mistake people make is, well, first, we are negative, right? Like, we tend to think more in the negative, and it's from a self-preservation standpoint. And what we understand from the research is that your positive thought doesn't outweigh the negative thought. But when we're using more affirming statements, I am, it's more neutral, right? It's not positive. It's not negative. Well, we might argue it's positive, but it's more concrete, and it actually registers and leaves us with that different type of memory. So I agree with you. It's amazing that now in the world today, specifically as parents, that we've got this opportunity to really help teach and mentor and guide these kids into being just amazing human beings, right? And a lot of that is, how do they think and how do they go about life? And, they're going to be dealing with stresses and challenges, as we all have, but, having the ability to think and speak in a certain way, I'm going to say that's like 90% of that, right? So cool.
I was trying to explain to them, it's not the circumstance, it's how you respond to it, right? It's our reaction to the circumstance that dictates, I guess, our level of suffering or our level of stress. And so thankfully, Rudy's, something he's taught me is emotion only lives in your body for 60 seconds, right? So at the point where you're feeling mad or sad or frustrated, like, give it 60 seconds, let it pass through, and then you handle it, and then you go about, whatever it is you're going about. But we have a tendency, of course, as humans to just right away, right? And then it just escalates and it gets even worse. And so it's really interesting to learn and to take in all the knowledge that I've been able to take in to make changes in my life and make changes in my children's life. So I call it, emotional longevity, right? Or spiritual longevity, right? It all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, you were talking about that before, where you had that scenario, it was a betrayal, and like your response to this, and not reaction, but your response to it was a 180 from what it would have been, right? And that actually ended up, changing a lot. As you were sharing that story, I've had a couple similar stories where the reaction was more negative, and there's that. I was thinking about this the other day. You can't be upset with people. The things they do, the decisions they make, the choices. And we are very affected by our relationships, but we have so much domain and control over who we are and how we are going to perceive, respond, communicate the decisions we're going to make. And we're leaving ourselves in a much better position by addressing it instead of reacting to it, which is easier said than done, right? I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and say, yeah, don't be mad and you can't get upset at people and blah, blah, blah. But, we're human beings. But what I love what you're talking about the most is the whole concept of practice, right? Which is, I haven't learned this. I'm practicing the meditation. I'm practicing the I am statements. I'm practicing living my purpose. And, I often describe it as like yoga, right? You never learn yoga. You practice yoga, right? You
Forever
exercise,
yeah.
right? We just keep strengthening. So talk to me a little bit about your spiritual journey and what is spirituality to you?
So that's a good question. Spirituality is something that I go back and forth on because I was raised, super conservative and Christian. And I will say this, Jesus is my homie forever and ever. Like I absolutely love Jesus and I love God. But it's really interesting how my journey and going in and actually journeying has changed my viewpoint of God. I used to believe God was like this guy up here in the clouds and pulling some strings and then getting mad and now I don't believe that, right? I truly believe that God is love. And he says that, God is love. But to be able to dive into what does that actually mean for me and how does that show up in my life, has taken a lot of time. And I'm still on the journey. There's an amazing book I'm reading now called Return to Love. I don't know if you've ever read that book by Marianne Williams. It's based on it's called A Course in Miracles. And it is absolutely beautiful. And it talks about all sorts of aspects and you can apply it to everyday life, whether it's work or whether it's a special relationship or the relationship with yourself or whatever it is. And it's ultimately just about love. And so really understanding that to love myself, I have to love myself like God does. And people say that, and we say that all the time, but what does that actually mean? Right. And I think then you tie into the emotion and letting go of the emotion and moving on from guilt, because I've felt a lot of fear, obligation, and guilt in my life. I think like most of us, right? It's kind of the default. So being able to tap into my spirituality and spend time with God and spend time with my source and take his direction has been important, wildly important in making decisions in my life, because we have so many outside sources, right? The internet, your friends, church, your parents, whoever it is, telling you what you should do and what's right and what's not right. And I've finally come to the conclusion that the only person I am going to trust from here on out is myself. Is that knowing, because I know, my intuition knows, and we all know, we just allow other people to influence us and change our minds. So it's really being able to practice and be disciplined and getting quiet, shutting off my brain and going to the source and getting my question answered there and then following that, right? That's how I think I will continue to pursue and obtain and follow my purpose, because that's what I'm allowing to lead me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Spirituality is, I like the way you describe it. There's a religious factor here, which is there's the belief and from a Christianity standpoint, but, it comes back to your purpose.
I hate religion, by the way. I love Jesus. I hate religion.
Tell me more about that. Like what is it? What about a religion is the call it the negative thing?
Yeah, and I shouldn't say hate, but religion is man-made. I truly believe religion is man-made, and religion has a lot of rules. And I do not believe that God loves rules more than he loves you. Right. And I've had this conversation with people before, like, well, you're doing this or you're doing this. I'm like, okay, well, that's a rule. So let's say divorce, for instance, right? God hates divorce. Okay. God may hate divorce. I know why he hates divorce, because it creates, hate and animosity between two people who loved each other. But I promise you, he doesn't hate divorce more than he loves me. Right. So I think it's the rules, and then we go about, and then we're all super judgmental. And for the most part, there's a lot of Christians that are, and some aren't, of course. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a lot of judgment, and it's just, we get sucked into these rules and what to do, what not to do, how to live. And again, I think the bottom line and what Jesus is about is love. Like, just live in love, and all those rules, all of that would take care of itself. So again, that's kind of my take on all of it.
That's your spiel. No, I agree with you. I think I like what you said, which is religion is man-made. I make a joke: before there was government, there was religion, right? And it was there to give us, right? Yeah, it's got to give us some sort of structure on what to do and what not to do and stuff. And yeah, religion does bring on this element of consequence and negative and, rules. And if you do this, you're bad. And if you do this, in Judaic law, we don't believe in hell. There is no hell. There is only heaven, for lack of a better term. And it's sort of, how we live our life, which it becomes more of the focus. Like, are you operating with good deeds, and are you operating with your best self, and are you giving and contributing to the well-being of community? I'm a big believer in community, and moving beyond religion, I believe we all have a responsibility to be stewards of our community and to contribute to the success and the well-being of the community, and to look after others. And, as we are describing before, to do it on a full cup, not an empty cup.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you say community, I mean, another word for that, connection, right? Like, we're all looking, we all need to connect to one another, because we are all one, right? I believe that we were all created by God, and we are all one, and you're my brother and I'm your sister, and what I do to you, I'm doing to myself, right? And that's a difficult concept for some people to understand. But just like, we have kids and our blood is in their bodies, our make DNA is in their bodies. It's the same concept, right? We were all created by God. And so he lives inside of us, essentially. We just have to be able to tap into that and follow that love, and community is a huge part of that. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And that's what I love about Costa Rica too. I love Costa Rica. I fell in love with that country. Like, I would live there in a heartbeat if my son did not play competitive select baseball, because they have no baseball. But it is just beautiful.
Soccer.
We would have to transition, but it is just a beautiful country, full of community, full of amazing souls. And if you've never been to Costa Rica, for any listeners, you got to go. Like, it's just one of those places you can't understand Pura Vida until you get there. You're like, oh no, I get what that means.
Exactly. It is a special place. It's why I live here. It's why I'm raising my kids here. Right. We came down when the kids were 4 and 6. So, competitive sports and organized, that, like, it wasn't an issue. And we'll see what happens as they get older, into sort of the tweens and a little later.
How old are they now?
So now they're 7 and 9.
Okay.
And they're thriving.
How are they?
They're thriving. Like, I look at my son, and, it was funny. So in Canada, as a baby, he was always wanting to go outside. Put him in a snowsuit, stick him outside. The kid was happy. Now we're all shivering away because it's -20 and it's freezing, but he loved being outside. Anyway, in Costa Rica, you live outside, right? Your entire life is outside. Restaurants are outside.
Your house, even, you have doors that open completely to the outside, right?
Correct. And he is in his element here. And, he's gotten into awesome. A lot of, like, the water sports and skimboarding and surfing. And, he moves. I have a very vivid memory of when we came down. So we came down during the pandemic lockdown. And one of the reasons we came down was I looked at my wife and I was like, I can't live like this anymore. Like, we have to leave. And we were supposed to go to San Diego. But we just logistically couldn't work out San Diego. And the 11th hour, she said, let's go to Costa Rica. And I'm like, find the house and let's do it. And we were here the first day, and we went to something called the Beach Club, which is part of the community here. And I'm watching my daughter and son run around, play tag with these other kids, jumping on each other, playing tag, running barefoot. And I was like, this is what life is about. This
got goosebumps.
Right?
I just got goosebumps. I can imagine that.
And being playful and a kid is boundless. It's they're the definition of free.
They are.
So they've been doing really well. My daughter has excelled also. They both obviously are now bilingual, which I think is fantastic because to be able to speak
Huge.
multi languages will serve them well in life. But the other thing that I found so incredible about them was their adaptability. Like we moved, we picked up, we left. We were only supposed
Yeah.
to be here for 2 months. We just didn't leave. And we actually had a layover in Florida flying back, and we were there. And that's when we changed our minds to fly back and looked at the kids. We're like, we're flying back to Costa Rica. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Now they're also young, right? But the mindset and their attitude towards it was yes, and I am. And it's been probably one of the best decisions we've made as a family, to be down here. Now it takes a lot more on the travel for work. You know, I'm back and forth a lot more between the US and Canada, but I was traveling anyway, similar to you, you know, half a month I'm usually away, but I'd rather be away half a month having this than going back to specifically Toronto. So
yeah, that's on my heart to do too.
Yeah. Well, you could split your time down here. I mean, you've got your business down here and
Yeah.
you could go, and there's a direct flight from Texas. So, you know, you could,
you could start bringing the kids. Yeah. That's the plan. That's definitely the plan.
Well, I am coming to Costa Rica when, Dana?
I am moving to Costa Rica in 2025.
Amazing.
We'll
So
manifest it right now.
There you go. Talk to me about your entrepreneurial journey, right? Like it's been, I wouldn't like most entrepreneurs. It's a long journey. So what's yours been like, and what have been some of those, call it in quotations, lessons that you've taken?
Yeah. So I've been an entrepreneur and worked since I was 15 years old. I literally I don't know if they have this in Canada, but in high school here, you can do what's called co-op, and you can leave. Yeah. You can leave early. I hated school. You can leave early and you can go to work. And so I would leave early. I would go to work. I bought my first Firebird. I was 16 years old and I bought my first red Firebird with T-tops. I love that thing. I was like, I want that car. My mom's like, well, then you better make some money because we're not buying it for you. And my parents always told me that, like, if you want nice things, you're going to have to get them for yourself. Like, it's just the way it was. I'm an only child and we didn't come from a lot. And so I've always just been ingrained, like, I'm going to go out and get whatever it is that I want and nothing's going to stop me. And so I've just been that way my whole life. And I've been in health and wellness. I worked for a company called My Fit Foods here in Texas, and always loved health and wellness and helping people, and then transitioned into healthcare and worked again for some spine and ortho guys. And then after I worked for a big publicly traded company, which I will say is miserable. I could not work for a publicly traded company ever again. I was like, wait a minute, I've done this for the last 12 years. I have all the contacts. I'm just going to go out on my own. So I started my own company and business and just set up all the different relationships on my own, which was a perfect lead into RMI because I met the then CEO in 2020, right before COVID, started doing some amniotic fluid injections in the regen room, and then COVID hit and we were idiots and we went into that whole PPE space. I don't know if you ever did that, but that allowed me to meet the folks at RMI because during that time were you talking to people all over the globe, right? So that's how I came across Costa Rica. And they told me what they were doing there. And I was like, there's no way you guys are giving live umbilical cell infusions. And like, I don't believe this. And so that's kind of where it all kicked off. But, been a part of it since the beginning. I mean, it was very small when I started, and it's now, I mean, we have doubled business every year. We're going into a new clinic next year. We should hit somewhere around 20 million this year. And when I started, we did $100,000. So it's been a fun, exciting journey. It's been, of course, challenging at times, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And so I think for me, what's really key is managing that stress, right? Managing stress is huge because stress will take such a toll on your body. Again, just loop it back into aging. I mean, it takes a huge toll on your body. It ages you faster than pretty much anything other than drugs and alcohol, which when you're stressed, you start doing drugs and alcohol. So it's not good.
So, Dana, what do you do to manage your stress? And, we were sharing a little bit of your practices before, which is, the I am statements and the priming in the morning and getting the energy right. But we face situational sort of stress throughout the day. So what are some things that you remind yourself of or practice in those moments?
Yeah, so I would definitely say, of course, yeah, the meditation, the priming, those are big components of managing my stress throughout the day. However, and kicking it back to Rudy, what he has taught me, and in the moments where I feel like I'm going to pull my hair out, I stop and I remember everything is always perfect. And what that means is that at any point in time in any of our lives, if we look back at any of the biggest stressors we've ever faced, whether, we've lost a job or we've, somebody's sick that we love or whatever the case is, we can look back and see that it happened for a reason we did not yet understand, right? And that good did come from it. I even think we can look back on COVID, to be honest, and tell you that good came from it, right? So in the moments where we feel the most stress and like the world is crumbling around us, just taking a pause and remembering everything is always perfect. And this is serving a purpose, even though we don't understand what that purpose is. Easier said than done. But again, it's awareness, right? I think that's another part of it. Awareness is huge. If first is awareness, you can't do any of this if you don't have awareness first. So I would say awareness and then understanding everything is always perfect are what keeps me just level throughout the day.
That's good. That's good. I have a statement or a line which I say everything happens for a reason. And I was reminded of this the other day, which was I was chatting with my mother, and the lease that she's in her building, the owner or the landlord wants to cut out early. And she runs a manufacturing environment, right? Like it's going to cost $1 million plus to change and move the equipment and the factory and the whole sort of nine. And
Stressful.
Stressful. And, but she said to me, like, as she was, and it reminded me, where did I get the statement from? Like, why do I think this way? And she was like, as I always say, everything happens for a reason. I'm like, there it is. And it's true. We can't necessarily control what comes at us, but we can control how we respond to it and what decisions we make. And the more we're taking that approach, the more we're going to find ourselves with solutions and answers and options and choices. And, that's the power of choice, right? Which is, hey, which way do I go?
Yes, cool. Exactly.
All right. I want to swing back to RMI. I want to talk a little more about the company in itself. I had one of the most phenomenal experiences. I mean, from meeting you and then meeting the doctors and the intimacy, I think, which was so profound, which is the relationship that you have with the doctors and yourself. There's an ongoing dialogue and conversation. It's not like there's a treatment and goodbye. I was even more impressed when I got to the airport, right? Because the concierge. So for the audience, like if someone was interested in and going to move forward, what is the type of experience they can expect?
Sure. So that's funny that you mentioned that, like you said, the intimacy. One of the things we say in one of our core values is come as a patient, leave as family, right? We genuinely believe that all of our patients are like family. And I know there are a lot of places that may say that, but that is what you're going to feel when you step foot in our clinic, when you interact with any one of us, because we genuinely care about each and every single person. So the experience is equally important as the outcome is, right? And of course, the outcome is super important, right? This is medical treatment. The outcome has to be important. Safety has to be important, but the experience is also important. You're coming to another country, right? Most of our patients live in the United States. So to get on a plane, come to another country, some of which have never even been to Costa Rica, trust that where you're going is trustworthy and legitimate. And, we understand that, right? We understand we can put ourselves in your shoes and we understand the decision-making process and what you have to experience. So we want to make it as hands down, just concierge VIP as possible. So the moment you get off the plane, we have somebody greet you, take you through customs and immigration, which I've stood in that line for 2 to 3 hours at a time. I'm pretty, now I've started going in the citizens line because my last name's Herrera. I'm like, let me see if I can scoot by here. So we take you through customs. We have a private driver pick you up. We book your hotel room. The hotel's connected to the clinic, or there's a really nice hotel right down the street. You have an agenda. We have a whole director of patient experience. We put welcome boxes in your room. From the moment you step foot in Costa Rica, we are just thrilled you're there and we want you to know it. And so there's an open dialogue between our team, whether it's the physicians or the staff or whomever it is. You have their cell phone numbers, right? Like you want to ask a question 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can message them, you could call them and they're going to respond. And again, it's a different concept and a different model than what we're used to in the United States. My father-in-law, so funny, just came down last week, and we did some orthopedic work on him. He had a really bad surgery about 20 years ago, and he has some screws in his elbow, but his shoulder, apparently the doctor told him needed, surgery. And when he came in, we did the ultrasound on his shoulder, and we were like, dude, the tear's not that bad. Actually, in fact, your other shoulder's worse. So it's really interesting when people come in and they discover all these things about their bodies that they were told by their physician was happening that is not in fact true. And then we can actually identify, hey, this is the cause. So really looking at root cause and really making sure that we're treating whatever is causing it, not necessarily the symptom associated with it. The symptom gets better too, but it's just a whole thing. We love our patients. Interestingly enough too, we are 100% basically patient owned. So our staff and our team, and then patients. We don't have any capital from VCs or anything like that. Our patients come down, go through treatment, and number one, refer a ton of people they know, and number two, go, how can I be a part of what you guys are doing? I've never seen anything like it in my life. Never. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'll speak firsthand experience on that. Anyone I speak to, and they're like, oh, my shoulder, I'm like, oh, Arma, you got to go do stem cell. And I almost sometimes feel like I'm pitching, right? And I try to hold myself back because I don't want to sound like, an evangelist too much, right?
Yeah. Where, but you're like, I would be remiss not to tell you, like, I can't not tell you what's available, so I get it.
There was someone that I referred recently, which we were chatting about before. I was in the gym with him, and I'm watching this guy with his shoulder, and he's doing this thing with his shoulder, and he's lifting it up. And I was like, shoulder injury? He's like, oh yeah, years ago, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, let me tell you what I think you should do. And I have never experienced medicine like this in my entire life. And, we come from the US and Canada, where you would think like the medical system is AAA. It doesn't even compare. It's like maybe a B on a good day. RMI, you guys, AAA. And again, it's the most profound thing. And you said 24/7. I mean, I don't know how many times I was back and forth in text message with you and with the other doctors as well. Even just sometimes like questions like, what should I be expecting? And like, is this normal? And, it was responded to with such kindness and such compassion and understanding. And, I must admit, I was almost thinking like, am I messaging too much? And when are they going to cut me off? And no, even today, and you know what? Yeah. And we've connected on social and with the other doctors, and I'm still back and forth and with them. And, we've developed friendships. It's very true. You leave this family.
And to your point, we've created our own community, right? Like we really have developed our own community. Our patients have become our community and our team. And you develop friendships. And what's really cool is we'll get a room. So we used to do patient dinners, actually. We haven't done it in a while. We need to do it again. But say we have 10 patients down from all over in a week. We'll say, hey, we're going to go do dinner, and dinner's on us. We go to a really cool place like Jaguar Negro or something. And they actually will start to talk to each other, and there have been business deals that have been made. Like it's really neat to see. It's not just, medical treatment, right? It's so much more than that. And it's really, really nice to be a part of and really building this community and this shift in thought and paradigm and where it's going to be going in the next, several years. So for anybody that wants to come down, I would say the best way to do that is just to go to our website, and we do one-on-one discovery calls with every single person. This is not a one size fits all. It's very personalized. We want to truly get to know you, right? And the question I always ask is, if you had a magic wand and you could wake up tomorrow and wave that wand, what would feel better? What would go away? What would your day-to-day life look like, right? And that's what we want to help you with. So go book a discovery call and let us learn more about you. And of course, we'll answer every single question you have. There is no question you have that we cannot answer. We're used to all of them.
Yeah. And the range of doctors, right? I mean, whatever the speciality is, I mean, you guys have it. So
neurosurgeons, pulmonologists, everything. You're 1,000% right. Because
well, the neurosurgeon I worked with was through you guys, and I mean, mind blowing, and stem cells again. All right, so
we combine that, best of both worlds, right?
Yeah. So the surgery and the stem cells. And you know what I'm excited about is I've got to get an MRI done probably in maybe 5 months from now. And
I'm excited for that too.
Me too.
Let's
We're gonna see that regenerative disc that's coming back in. All right. So on that note, for the audience, just drop the links. Like, you know, what is the RMI website and how do they get in touch?
Sure. So the website is rmi-international.com. And again, there's a schedule consult button all over the website. So just click that and that will take you to my team, who is absolutely phenomenal. And you can book a call with them at your convenience. And again, we just want to educate people. That's all it is. This is it's nothing more than we want people to be equipped and have the knowledge to know what's available to them and what's out there and what's true and what's not. From that point, each and every person can make a decision for themselves, right? But allow us to educate you on myth and fact and what stem cells really do and what they're capable of and what they don't do. I think that's the first step, is knowledge.
Yeah, very true, right? I think it's super important. So for the audience as well, you could always reach out to me. I'll put you guys in touch with Dana or RMI. I'm always accessible. And we're going to put all your links in there as well. I'll save your personal number out of that so you don't get raging phone calls, right? But definitely, you know, Dana's someone that can chat and talk to you through this, and RMI as well. Incredible team. All right.
Thank you.
At the end of the episode, we come to the most important question, which is, you know, this is a health episode, but what do you think we could do to all be better humans tomorrow?
To all be better humans tomorrow. I think, and I've said it, I think awareness is key. I think it's kind of like the, you know, Michael Jackson song, right? Man in the Mirror. We all want to change everybody else, right? We all want to change, you know, our partners and our kids, and like, start with yourself. I think is the best thing we can do to make the world better and to be a better human, is to truly just start with yourself. And full disclosure, transparency, heal what needs to be healed. And that's the way it needs to go.
Awesome. Well, you are an example of the emotional heal, the spiritual heal, physical heal, right? So incredible.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I've been looking forward to this.
This is fun.
All right. For the audience, listen, if you know someone that is suffering with an ailment, if they need to heal physically and, you know, they've been battling with some stuff for a while, definitely check out RMI, at least have a conversation with them. And of course, like usual, if you like today's episode, don't forget to like it, throw down some stars there. It helps us get the podcast out to more people. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy. We'll see you all next week.